Good morning, everyone. My name is Alesia Baranava, and I'm the ONA Project Coordinator here at the center. As most of you know, we organize community education workshop on a regular basis in order to discuss important topics concerning the community. So let me thank you for joining us this beautiful morning for our monthly workshop. And today we are going to talk about what to do with the traffic ticket. So I invite you to use the chat box for any comments or questions you might have during the presentation, and we will make sure to address them at the end. Also, please be advised that the webinar will be recorded, so please feel free to stay on or off the video. And with that, let me introduce today's speakers, Lisanne Devine, our traffic safety coordinator at the center, um, Karen Southwick, ONA Legal Counsel and Hiscox Legal Aid Society staff attorney, and Tina Hartwell, Criminal Law Director. Welcome, and now I will turn it over to you, Lisanne.
Okay, thank you. Excited. So today what we're going to do is I hope you learn a little bit about what to do with a traffic ticket and some general legal information around traffic tickets. So we're providing this disclaimer that this presentation is not legal advice. This presentation is for informational, educational purposes only. Please keep in mind that laws often change, and if you have a question or need legal help, you should contact an attorney for advice. So drivers can be ticketed for not following the traffic rules, and there are many, many traffic rules. So I've placed some images up of things that people are commonly ticketed for. So people could be ticketed for speeding. So they're going over the speed limit. And that's a ticketable offense. Or maybe they're not following the traffic control devices like a stoplight or a yellow light or even a stop sign or a yield sign. Maybe they're texting, or maybe they've been drinking alcohol or taking something that alters your mind, which would be driving while intoxicated or impaired. There are many, many, many things that you can be ticketed for, and not just these. Next. So the best way to not have to worry about the legal implications is to not get a ticket at all. So we encourage you to learn about ways to learn about the traffic safety rules and prevent being ticketed. So at the center, we have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos that are in multiple languages and presentations, which we hope help you understand traffic rules. And you can also join the Center's Multilingual Traffic Safety Facebook group, where many, many topics are posted. And then also the DMV has a lot of information, the Department of Motor Vehicles, on their website. So there's a driver's manual, there's practice tests, there's information about tickets, points, and penalties. And I believe Alesia is going to put some the YouTube channel and the Traffic Safety Facebook group into the chat if anybody would like to visit those or join our Traffic Safety Facebook group. Thank you. So if you see a police car with their lights on behind you and the sirens going, you must pull over and stop your vehicle. Turn off your engine and stay in your vehicle. During COVID-19 pandemic, be sure to wear a mask. It will protect you and the police officer just in case somebody's sick. Law enforcement officer may approach your vehicle. Make sure you have a mask on. So what you want to do is be sure to stay calm. Keep your hands where your police can see them. Do not run. Do not argue. Do not resist or obstruct the officer, even if you believe your rights have been violated. Do not lie about your status or provide false documents. So documents you should have with you, or you must have with you when you drive, is your driver's license, or a permit. If you're only have your permit, if you only have your permit, you must have a driver who is licensed and is over 21 with you. You must have your insurance documents with you. You must have your registration with you. Other documents that would prove who you are would be your a green card or a permanent resident card, and a copy of the I-94 retrieval letter. So sometimes people are ticketed for more than one thing when they pull over. So if you get more than one ticket, you are responsible for responding to all of them. Do not forget one, all of them. And you must respond immediately. There is a time frame. So in the city of Utica, New York, the police department will also give you a translated document with instructions. So here's what it says in English, and then I'll show you what it looks like later. But in English, it says, you have been issued a vehicle and traffic ticket by the City of Utica Police Department on today's date. The traffic tickets require that you report to the City of Utica Court, located at 411 Oriskany Street West, Utica, New York. It's across from the Utica Memorial Auditorium, or I believe it's now called the Adirondack Bank Center, at 9 a.m. on the date listed to the right. Bring your traffic tickets with you. Be advised that your failure to appear in court on the above date may result in the suspension of your driving privileges in New York State. If you are interested in requesting a reduction or diversion on your ticket, the procedure is on the district attorney's website, located at www.ocgov.net/distatty. So this is what it looks like, the paper that the court notification document that the City of Utica Police Department will be giving people. I'm not sure that they're using it yet, but over on this side is the time and date that you must respond to your ticket, or report to court is how they put it. And this is the date that today's date would be the date the ticket was issued. So this is available in English, Arabic, Burmese, Karen, Kinyarwanda, Nepali, Malay, Russian, Somali, Spanish, and Swahili. So this is a ticket that you're going to get everywhere in New York State. You're going to get a ticket that looks like this. Okay. You will not get a translated version anywhere else but in Utica. So remember, respond immediately to traffic tickets. And we're going to be talking about this. So the right to attorney, default convictions, suspensions, and traffic resolution diversion programs. So the left side of the ticket, this top part, tells who. So it tells, you know, your last name, your first name, where you live, and what your license ID number is, and this is the vehicle you were driving. Okay. The vehicle that was ticketed. And then the violation is here. So what time it happened, the date it happened. It was a violation of New York State vehicle and traffic law. And then there are numbers that they associate with the laws that are violations. And then for this ticket, it's a traffic infraction, but sometimes it could be a misdemeanor, which is a crime, or a felony, which is a big crime. This is showing that it's a traffic infraction. So the person was going 71 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. And then they were speeding in a posted work zone. Gives the name of the officer, where it happened, And down at the bottom is where it tells you where and when to go to court. So this one happened in Bethlehem Town Court. In the court, or this one, you have to go to Bethlehem Town Court, and they give you the street address. The town is Delmar, New York, and the date and the time that you have to appear in court. So that's really important, right? If you're traveling, you need to know that you're responsible to respond to the ticket at that court, which is in Utica, right? If you're not ticketed in Utica. Next. And then this, I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Tina, so she can talk about the right side of the ticket and please, and the legal side of this whole
Yes.
thing. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lisanne. So this is the right side of the ticket. And this side really goes through at the top what the instructions are in order to plead by mail. So if you don't want to actually show up to court because you are busy that day and at that time, you can send this in and they will give you another court date. So under where it has the blue circle with the number 4, if you want to just plead guilty to a traffic ticket, say for instance, you got a bad muffler ticket and it's just an equipment violation and you're like, you're right, you know, my muffler was bad, I will go ahead and plead guilty. You can do so under this section where it says plea of guilty. You would just put in your name, your address, and then put the date and signature down below. Thereafter, the court will contact you to let you know what the fine and the surcharge is that you will then have to pay because of your plea of guilty. Below that, though, is section 5, which is, or section B on the right side, which is the plea of not guilty. So if you don't feel as if you did what the officer said and you would like to go to court to explain your side of the situation, you would plead not guilty. And in doing so, it's going to ask you a couple other questions. It's going to ask if you want a supporting deposition. Now, sometimes when you receive a ticket, you receive a second page, and that second page at the top says that it is the supporting deposition. A supporting deposition is just simply an explanation that the police officer has to provide to the court as to why it was that that officer gave you that ticket. So if that was already generated, then you would say that you do not need a supporting deposition. However, if you did not receive one and you would like to see the explanation, you would ask for the supporting deposition right there in that section under plea of not guilty. In this circumstance, you will see that they actually indicated that a speeding supporting deposition was provided. So then you would just say no above, leave the speeding there, and then make sure you sign it, put the correct address where you want your mail to be sent, because that's the mail that's going to come from the court. And then you're going to go ahead and sign and date that. So once that is done, the court will then notify you of your next court date, at which time they will also provide you with some information, particularly during the time of COVID, as to how that court is handling, whether it's in person or by mail, these traffic tickets. So pay very close attention to your mail thereafter so that you don't miss any court dates. Next slide. So we wanted to make sure that you understand that you do have the right to an attorney even with a traffic ticket. But you can, so if you want to hire an attorney, you can do so, and you can just go online and search, Google attorney for traffic tickets in Utica, New York, or Delmar, New York, or whatever city that you need an attorney. And you have to just understand that private attorneys, they can vary in prices. So call around to the different attorneys to find out what prices that they are charging, and you find the one that's right for you. But it's important to understand that you have the right to an attorney to be appointed free of charge if you are charged with a misdemeanor or felony traffic violation, or not violation, but traffic offense. So that's where that section on the traffic ticket will tell you if it's a misdemeanor or felony. If that is the case and you cannot afford an attorney, one can be appointed to you after you fill out a financial eligibility form to determine that you are eligible for a free attorney. And those misdemeanors and felonies can include DWIs, aggravated unlicensed operation, or operating with a suspended license, vehicular assault, things like that. So those are pretty serious offenses. You do not have to hire an attorney if you want to handle the ticket yourself. Say, for instance, we're going to use that example of the equipment violation. Say, for example, you didn't know that your muffler was bad to the point where you could be ticketed for it, and you went and you had it fixed. You could then take care of that ticket yourself by going to the district attorney's website, which almost all the district attorneys do have a website in New York State. And then you can figure out how to take care of the ticket, what we call pro se. Pro se means on my own. So you would follow those procedures, and we'll go over what the Oneida County District Attorney's Office requests of you if you want to take care of it yourself. But it is possible to take care of it yourself as well. Okay, next slide. So we wanted to make sure that you understood the difference between a suspended license and a revoked license. Because if you're suspended, your driver's license or your privilege to drive is taken away for a specific period of time before it can be returned to you. However, the more serious is when it is revoked. If you are revoked, your driver's license or privilege to drive is actually canceled. And in order to get a new license, you have to reapply through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Once that revocation period is over, you pay certain penalty fees to the DMV, and then the application process has to be done all over again. Next slide. So there's also a difference between default convictions and license suspensions. Okay, so you have to understand that what a default conviction is a default conviction occurs when the person is issued the traffic ticket and you don't respond to the court. That's why Lisanne just made it very clear that you make sure you respond to all of your tickets, because if you don't, you could be given a default conviction. And that is the same as if you pled guilty or was found guilty after a trial, convicting you of that traffic charge. And it's possible to reopen that default conviction, but it's a long process and it can be very complicated. So make sure that you respond to your tickets right away so you don't have to fall under this category. So a default conviction happens.
Wait, I have a question. So, and the Utica City, they're telling them to report to court. So if they need an attorney, do they report to court first and then get an attorney, or do they?
They can do either, because sometimes it's difficult to find the right attorney. So you can go to court with the attorney, or the attorney can, if you've already hired an attorney, you can have that attorney go in your absence because you have to work or something like that. But if you haven't been able to hire an attorney yet, when you go to court, you can then tell the judge that you intend to hire an attorney, and that judge will then adjourn your case so you get that time to hire an attorney.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the default conviction can happen prior to the court date, or prior to like getting into the court case. Now, a driver's license suspension or revocation comes afterward. And it's important to understand there's been a new law called the Driver's License Suspension Reform Act. And what that says is that license suspensions due to non-payment of traffic fines are essentially no more. So if you were unable to pay a traffic fine and you were suspended, in other words, they call it scoffed, then you will no longer be suspended so long as you make an arrangement with the court to have a payment plan in order to pay those fines. And the payment plans can be as little as 2% of your monthly income or $25 per month, whichever is greater. So there is an opportunity, if your license is already suspended, you don't want to be driving with that, because then that will raise the ticket up to a revocation, which is a misdemeanor, and that gets more serious. So it reinstates licenses of persons who currently have been suspended due to non-payment of traffic fines. Again, once that new payment plan has been made with the court, individuals who currently have a license suspended will have to enter into a payment plan in order to get your license reinstated. And individuals who did not appear in traffic court will continue to be suspended, although they will be given the opportunity to appear in court and enter into a new payment plan. So just because it says that they can no longer suspend you because of non-payment of fine, that doesn't mean that your license is automatically given back to you. So if you are in this situation, you can either take care of this yourself by contacting the court. and making arrangements to get that license returned to you with a payment plan. Next slide. So here in Oneida County, in almost every county in the state of New York, they have some type of traffic resolution program or what we call a traffic diversion program. So they not all have the same exact type of program, but they all have some sort of program. So the traffic diversion program is how you can request a reduction of your traffic ticket directly through the district attorney's office. And you can either do this by mail, or you can do that by going to court on the day the district attorney's office is appearing so that you can talk to the assistant district attorney. So for example, in Oneida County, the district attorney requires that you send them the following stuff, the documents: a legible copy of your ticket. You should always keep your original, your 9-digit DMV ID number, which is found on your driver's license, a letter explaining why you're asking for the reduction. If the traffic resulted in a motor vehicle accident, they are going to ask for a letter from your insurance company indicating that all property or personal injury damages have been or will be paid. In other words, that situation is taken care of through insurance. They will also want a copy of your driver's abstract and a self-addressed stamped legal-sized envelope if you're requesting a reduction by mail, because they will send you an offer in the mail for you to review. So please understand that the traffic diversion program is not available to anyone charged with a misdemeanor or felony traffic offense. Okay, so this is only available if on your ticket it says that it is a traffic infraction. And there's also no guarantee that you'll get a reduction or a dismissal. And the district attorney's office may ask you to pay for take a defensive driver's course or something like that. For example, here in Oneida County, they used to have, and I'm not sure if they still have, the Alive at 25 program, things like that, in order to agree to a reduction or a dismissal. Next slide. So what is a New York State Driver's Abstract? It's essentially your driving record. It's a history of your driving record, like when you got the driver's license, if you have any tickets, how those tickets were handled, things like that. But there are 3 types of records, and you need to know what they are. There's a standard driving record, there's a lifetime driving record, and then there's the commercial driving record. So the standard is essentially what all of the district attorney's office will ask of you, is just to get the standard driving record. A lifetime driving record will go back all the way to the very first time that you ever had a permit, and it will explain everything that you ever done with DMV from the first time that you introduced yourself to DMV. I made the mistake of getting my mother's lifetime driving record, and it ended up being 18 pages. So don't make that mistake. The commercial driving record, we'll talk about CDLs in just a minute, but the cost for this is currently $7, and you can take care of this in person at DMV if they are doing in-person services right now, or just make it easy on yourself and get it online. So why would you need that driver's abstract? Well, as I just spoke about, in Oneida County actually requires you to send a copy of your driver's record if you're asking for a reduction on your ticket. So, and that's not, Oneida County is not the only one, most of them do. So how would you get it? First of all, you're going to need an email address, because you're going to go to the DMV website that's listed here on the slide, and you're going to create an account under mydmv.gov, and you're going to need your email address, your most recent driver's license, your most recent, or the driver's permit, or your non-driver ID. In other words, that identification number that's on there, you're going to need that in order to get on to the website in order to order that standard driving record. If you don't have any of those, you will need to order it by mail, and that's going to take a lot more time. So if your traffic ticket is due in court next week, ordering by mail is probably not in your best interest. You would either at that point go online and get that, or if you don't have an email address, or you have trouble with the online program, then you have to make an appointment to go to the DMV to get that yourself. Next slide. So this is a copy of the New York State Drivers Abstract, and this is the perfect example of the simple driving record. Okay, so again, how are you going to retrieve it? You're going to go to that MyDMV website. They're going to offer you the different types of driver's abstract. Make sure that you request the standard. You do have to have the email address. You have to sign up essentially for My DMV. They can also offer you other services, for example, reapplying for or renewing your driver's license and things like that. So again, to log into My DMV, you can change your address, you can check your license status, you can check your registration, ordering that driver's abstract. You can also restore your revoked license after paying whatever fees that DMV says you owe. And you can also complete any other online services by signing into that. In other words, renewing your license, replacing your license, renewing your registration. So all of those things are available to you beyond just the driver's abstract on that My DMV website. It's a very handy website.
So I have a comment on that. I see a lot of times people have reapplied for their license, or they have a change, or but they moved. So the ID, the permanent license, goes to the wrong address, or their the paperwork to renew goes to the wrong address. So it's really important to keep your address up to date.
Yes,
And this is a
and they
great
can
way
do
to
that.
do it.
Yep, and that's the great way to do it, is right there online, because you don't have to go to DMV to get it done. Always want to avoid those lines. Next slide. So we told you that we would talk to you a little bit about what a commercial driver's license is, and we're going to compare that to the standard driver's license. So the CDL is issued to any person that drives a truck or other commercial vehicle. You need a CDL in order to operate that vehicle. It's required to operate large or heavy vehicles such as dump trucks, tractor trailers, buses, stretch limos, things like that. We are not talking about school buses. That's a different permit. That's a different license altogether. But in order to get a CDL, you have to first have your regular driver's license. And the CDL driving record, which is offered through the website that we talked about, that can also show the expanded driver history information, including convictions, suspensions, revocations, or other actions in any state of any type of vehicle. So they also provide the medical certification status and self-certification information. So if you are a CDL driver, there are sometimes, if you're applying for a job, an employer will ask you to get your CDL driver's abstract, and that too you can get through that website. Now, on the other hand, the regular driver's license, which you will need prior to getting your CDL, that involves a person age 18 or over that drives just a regular vehicle, a car, SUV, or truck. They do have the weight limit, although I don't believe that many vehicles, regular vehicles, are over 26,000. But if your vehicle for some reason is over 26,000 pounds, you're going to have to get a CDL. So regular driver's license can also be used to drive a moped or tow another vehicle like a small trailer or a boat. And again, it has a weight limit. To get a regular driver's license, you must first have your permit. So you also have to go and take care of that prior to getting your regular driver's license. And then that standard driver's license abstract, as we have already talked about, contains information that DMV is required to keep. In other words, that information will be about any traffic tickets that you receive or any suspensions and revocations. Next slide. So this is where I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Lisanne and Alesia. I want to say a couple things first before I talk about how your traffic tickets can cause immigration problems for you. First, as we've mentioned, treat all of your traffic tickets very seriously. Do not ignore your traffic tickets. You are not going to get reminders in the mail from whoever issued you the ticket that you need to take care of it. You are going to get one ticket and that's it. So don't ignore them. Don't lose your tickets. Also follow all the rules and instructions on the ticket. If you don't understand something on the traffic ticket, talk to a lawyer. Get some legal advice. Don't ask someone who got a ticket a couple years ago how you should handle it, because their situation may have been different and the law may have changed. Second, I would also mention that traffic tickets are very serious. You have been charged with violating a law. And please keep in mind that something like a ticket for driving while drunk is very serious. It is not simply a parking ticket. It's something with a lot more consequences for you than something that is like a traffic ticket or parking in a wrong spot, something like that. The second thing I want to say is if you have any arrest, if you've ever been arrested or been found guilty, whether you pled guilty or a court or judge found you guilty of a traffic violation, you cannot hide that from the immigration agency. Whenever you apply for something with USCIS, which is the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, they will know because your fingerprints will be checked when you apply for different avenues or options that you are trying to pursue. So don't think that you can hide them or hide an arrest. Get your driver's abstract, like Tina mentioned. It's very easy to do. If you've ever gotten traffic tickets, it's very easy to forget over the years, maybe what you got a speeding ticket for, or you got a ticket for reckless driving. It's easy to forget that you got a traffic ticket and also what you were charged with and what the outcome was. So don't think that you can hide any sort of arrest or conviction from immigration. And also know your driving history before you start to apply for different things with immigration. It's good to know your driving history. So as the slide mentioned, getting a traffic ticket can cause problems for you. For example, if you want to get your green card, you will have to fill out paperwork, lots of applications. The application will ask you, and here's the page from it. It will ask you, have you ever been arrested, cited, charged, or detained by anyone? If you're not sure whether your traffic stop was an arrest, talk to an immigration lawyer. Make sure you know before you go ahead and apply. Don't assume or wish that the incident was less serious than it was, because that may not change an immigration officer's mind. So you will be asked right on the paperwork, have you ever been arrested, cited, charged, or detained? If you have to, in certain circumstances, you will have to include police and court records for any criminal charges, arrests, or convictions. In general, if you've had something like a traffic fine, you got a fine, and it was an incident that did not involve, you were not physically arrested, and if the penalty was only a fine of less than $500 or points on your driver's license, you probably don't have to submit documentation with your application. But if the incident resulted in criminal charges, or it involved alcohol, drugs, or anybody got hurt or property that got damaged, you have to include documentation with your green card application. If you're not sure, and it's very easy to be confused or not understand the instructions, talk to an immigration lawyer. Get someone's opinion as to whether you need to tell USCIS about this traffic incident. In some countries, what may be not something may be viewed as less serious than here, you can't assume that that's how our culture will view an incident. Make sure you know, do I need to provide documentation? Do I need to tell immigration about this on my application? Talk to a lawyer before you submit your application so that you can be prepared to discuss any incidents with an immigration officer. You can know what sort of documents to provide. Make sure all of your fines are paid. You've completed any programs that you needed to do. An immigration lawyer can help you figure out what should I send in with my application and what's not relevant. What do I need to provide and what do I not need to provide? Because what I'm saying is the law today may change next week. This form, this application might be different tomorrow. It might be different this afternoon. So you need to talk to someone who can find out, this is the procedure for today. This is what the law tells us. This is how you should handle your traffic ticket and whether you need to talk about it when you apply for your green card. If it is a more serious incident that happened with drugs or alcohol, immigration lawyer may suggest some other options for you as far as whether you should apply or not for that green card. Very similar, if you apply for citizenship, the application is very long. It asks a lot of questions about your background. Here's the application page, which again, very similar ask. Have you ever been arrested, cited, or detained by any law enforcement officer? So your fingerprints will also be checked when you apply for citizenship. So again, don't think that immigration will not find out about your arrest. It is better to discuss things up front. If you received a citation, a traffic citation, and you're not sure if you need to discuss it on your application, talk to a lawyer, find out whether you should or shouldn't. In general, it's better to disclose things and say that you had a citation, then try to hide it and have it maybe looked as a negative on your application. So if you do apply for citizenship, if you had a traffic fine or the incident did not result in you being arrested, there were no drugs or alcohol involved, and if the penalty was a fine of less than $500 or points on your record, you don't need to submit any documentation. So something like a parking ticket and you paid it and the issue was ended, probably you don't need to submit documentation. But if the incident involved alcohol, drugs, someone got arrested or someone got seriously injured, you will need to provide documentation upfront with your application. And I highly encourage you to talk to an immigration lawyer before you apply to find out whether you should maybe wait until maybe 5 years has passed before you apply for citizenship. Because when you apply for citizenship, you must show what's called good moral character. Certain incidents certain things that have happened with your driving may show that you don't have good moral character in the eyes of immigration. So I highly encourage you to talk to a lawyer first as far as, do I need to report this traffic ticket or not? What might be seen as it might say citation on it. It might say ticket if you got it from a different state, a different town. If you're not sure, talk to someone, get an opinion, and get some advice before you send in your application. That way you will know whether you need to mention it on your application, and you will know whether you should maybe wait and then apply after a few years have passed. Also with other applications, as mentioned on the slide, in general, your fingerprints are run and checked. For example, when you apply for employment authorization, or what people call your work permit, your fingerprints are run. If you've been arrested and you think of the incident as only a traffic incident or a traffic ticket, Immigration may think of it as something much larger than only a traffic incident. It could end up in your application being denied, and worst case scenario, you could end up in immigration court and in deportation proceedings. So it really does depend on the seriousness of the offense. So I highly encourage you to talk to any immigration lawyer to get an opinion, and ask them, do I need to discuss my traffic ticket on my application? If I do, what documentation, what papers do I need to provide with my application? So I'm happy to answer any questions, and turn it over to Alesia. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lisanne, Tina, and Karen, for providing such extremely valuable information to us. Certainly, many of our attendees benefited from today's presentation. And now, I just want to open it up to the questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak directly to our presenters, or post your question in the chat box below, and we'll read them out loud. And I think I'm gonna start. I have a few questions. So what to do if your traffic ticket is overdue? I'm not sure. Would it be a question for Tina, maybe?
Your traffic ticket is overdue. The first thing you should do is contact the court and make sure that, so for example, if you didn't respond prior to your court date, make sure you go ahead and fill that ticket out and send that into the court right away. It's and you can add a little note to it when you do send it to the court. Like what happened, oh my gosh, life got very busy and I completely missed it. I'm so sorry. A lot of times it does not go into that default conviction for a period of time. I wish I could say that it was 30 days for every court, but it's not. For example, in the larger cities, it might be small, a less amount of time, but always contact the court, either mail it in or go to the court itself and then ask them to be heard. Don't ignore it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And one more question. What happens if one gets pulled over with no insurance?
Well, there is a ticket in the Vehicle and Traffic Law of the state of New York for having no insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a very, very hefty fine, not only from the court if you're found guilty or if you plead guilty, but also there is a collateral fee that you will have to pay DMV. And that is very expensive. I mean, we're possibly $7 a day for every day that you didn't have insurance. Up to a certain amount, I think, is $750. That could be wrong because, again, the laws change all the time. So that is a traffic infraction. However, it's one of those infractions that can be more serious than what we believe it is. So it's very important to take care of that. If you didn't know that your insurance lapsed, then you should contact your insurance company right away and find out why that lapsed, and get that corrected. And then you will then be able to show proof that you are now insured, either to the district attorney, or you can provide that proof to the court, just so that they know that you are now insured. So it's one of those infractions that can be more serious, and the fine can be more than $500, like what Karen was talking about.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Maybe one of our attendees wanna speak up. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay,
I actually have one issue that has come up a lot in some of my other trainings that I do. A lot of people will ask me, what's an arrest? Because most people, they see people getting locked up in handcuffs and hauled off to court or jail, and most people know that that is an arrest. There are other types of arrest. I call them soft arrests, but they're arrests nonetheless. And they are things that are appearance tickets for misdemeanors, felonies, and some violations. So in traffic law, if your ticket tells you that you have that is a misdemeanor or a felony, that ticket is considered an arrest because it is summoning you to court. And once you've been summoned to court, that is considered an arrest. In other words, you must go to court in order to handle that matter. So don't think just because you got a simple ticket that it's not an arrest. It's going to be very important to talk to your immigration attorney about any ticket that you may get. And then, as Karen said, make sure that you have that, have documentation to help support that. And if there's any question, just make sure you reach out to the immigration attorneys that can help you. And they will be able to decide, or, based on the current law, because it changes all the time, as to whether or not that's something that you will have to provide supporting documentation for. So arrests are not just what we see on television. They can be what we call a paper arrest or a soft arrest, where no handcuffs are involved. You're just summoned to court.
So I have a question around, thank you, Tina. So say somebody, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. You don't respond to your ticket. They suspend or revoke your license, and you keep driving. So then you get pulled over again, and now you are issued a ticket that's called an aggravated unlicensed operation, an AUO, which ends up being a crime. So a simple traffic ticket could turn into a crime by just not responding. So at this point, somebody is looking for an attorney, they find an attorney. How do they make sure that that attorney makes sure that they're looking at their immigration side of things as well?
So everyone in the state of New York, and actually everywhere, all attorneys are aware of any charges that are misdemeanors or felonies could potentially carry immigration consequences. And that's when the attorney, once they learn that the individual was not born in the United States, they reach out to my office for immigration advice. So what that attorney would do is they would contact my office and say, hey, Tina, I have a client in Utica City Court. She's charged with AUO third, and I'm just wondering, what are the immigration consequences of this AUO third? And then what the attorney will do at our request is get certain information from that individual. We need to make sure that it is in fact an AUO third and not an AUO second, which is an even higher misdemeanor, or even worse, an AUO first. And these are all depending on the number of suspensions that you have or why your license is suspended. So in other words, say that one ticket you forgot to answer is actually 3 tickets from 3 different jurisdictions. And now that aggravated unlicensed operation increases to a second degree, that person will likely be arrested with the pretty little handcuffs, go before a court, and you might have to post bail in order to get out. So it becomes very, very serious. But that attorney should be reaching out to my office for immigration advice for us to then determine whether or not that client's specific situation with those specific charges will carry any negative immigration consequences. Does that answer all of that?
And the client could also request that their attorney make sure they look at. The client
Absolutely.
should know to have their immigration.
Yes, absolutely. The one I should probably clarify a little bit. If that individual went to court with a misdemeanor and they were able to receive a free attorney based on financial eligibility, that attorney has the right to get the free immigration advice from our office. If they chose to hire an attorney, that private attorney should be reaching out to an organization. They can reach out to us, but we can't provide them based on our grant because we're limited, unfortunately. But they still have the legal obligation to reach out to an immigration attorney to get that expert advice with regard to consequences. They would then probably incorporate that into their fees. So the hiring of that attorney might be even more expensive. So, I mean, sometimes I say, if you're not sure if you are eligible for an attorney, ask for one And if they will tell you that if you make too much money, then you would have to hire one. But our services are free to public defender and assigned attorneys in, well, across the state. My region just happens to be 16 counties.
How long does a traffic ticket or points stay on the driving record?
The last I knew was 39 months. So 3 years and 3 months.
Okay.
And it's very important to know that, especially if people are frequent speeders, because you have to be very careful with speeding tickets. Because if you get 3 speed convictions within 18 months, your license will be suspended for a 1-year time period. So that's actually 3 speeds or misdemeanors. So if in between there you forgot to answer one of those tickets and you pled guilty to an AUO third, which is a misdemeanor, and then you got another speeding ticket thereafter, even though your license was valid, that is 3 speeds or misdemeanors within 18 months, and your driver's license will be suspended for a year. So for 39 months, you have to watch out for those points.
Yes, no speeding. Thank you so
And
much.
no speeding, yeah.
Yes. Are there any other questions, maybe from our audience? Okay, I don't see any questions at this point. So it's about the time. We'll be closing up the workshop. Thank you again so much for joining us this morning. Thank you to our presenters, Tina, Karen, and Lisanne. That was valuable information and I learned a lot myself. So again, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And we are the Office for New Americans, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Great day.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.